Actually, we don't call it as philosophy, we call it as the law of life.
Steve Jobs is there, where we all get into crisis.
Arjuna of Bhagavad Gita is the Bill Gates of today, let us say. Bill Gates went into a crisis.
Who should take these steps and what is the way out there?
The first step and the most important step has been done already. Those who are benefited from that, you are trying to expose it to as many people as possible. To be interested in the natural law of life is not natural to most of the human beings.
That's a deep point. They do not feel the connect immediately because the teacher part or the authority part is always in a monk setup.
Your observation is true, but the conclusion is wrong.
The Gita was not given by a monk, was not given to a monk. Both are householders. Do you think that this uniform creates a barrier?
This is the non-essential part of the education. Now, when they keep hearing all this, naturally, what will they think?
That means it was full of awe.
In the word detachment, there is an intended meaning.
I don't want to get detached to the world. Why should I study the Gita? How has this come up and why has this come up? Who has made this?
Vedanta doesn't talk about doing perfectly. Vedanta always talks about doing sincerely. The quickest way to become insane is turn into a perfectionist. Because the Gita doesn't complicate it. The Vedas don't complicate it. Upanishads don't complicate it.
Hello viewers and welcome to another episode of OMG, Oh My Gita podcast. Today's podcast is going to be very special for two reasons. Number one, this is the first podcast we are shooting out of Kolkata. We are in Chennai right now. And second, and the more important reason why it's going to be special is for the first time we have an authority on Gita and Vedanta in our podcast. And we have Shri R, Aravindan sir. Welcome, sir, to this podcast. So, just to give a brief background of Aravindan sir is that he is the authority, I can say, on Gita and the Vedanta. He is the head of Vedanta Institute in Chennai. He was introduced to the Vedic studies as early as 9 years of age, and at the age of 18, he joined the Vedanta Academy under Shri, of course, Swami A. Parthasarathi sir, which began a journey of almost 3 decades and it is still continuing. He has the master's degree in mathematics, psychology and philosophy, which adds a lot of depth and structure in his teachings. It's literally like a marathon that he conducts, more than 3 dozen sessions every week, relentlessly. Since how many years, we are not even sure. He is a global teacher. He has traveled to almost the entire world and is teaching in institutes like IIM, IIT, YPO, and also has shared the wisdom of Gita and Vedanta to the likes of Oprah Winfrey. We are absolutely privileged to have a personality and authority like him on our podcast, and I'm sure that our viewers are going to take a lot from this episode and this discussion. Thank you, sir, for agreeing so humbly to be a part of this podcast, and welcome once again.
Thank you so much. Yes.
So, like sir, I asked you earlier also. So, should we start with hard questions or the conventional questions?
We'll start with hard questions.
With the hard ones, because the conventional questions are almost everywhere.
Yes.
And still we see that people are not, really connecting to the Gita. Yeah. So the first question that stems out from my experience, sir, is that, because of my own experience, of course, which I'll not get into it, where I saw or I learned that people have not connected to the Gita, although they bow down to the book.
Yes.
Everybody knows about it. There's hardly anyone who does not know about or have not heard about the Bhagavad Gita. Yes. But still, we distributed over 10,000 pieces of Gita in the last 18 months. And while interacting with them, we see that 99% of them haven't studied the Gita. So why do you think this is there?
Yeah. The question is, even though the book is available, why very few people access the knowledge?
Yes.
That's the clarification.
They revere it, they bow down to it, but never have thought of going into it and studying
the study part of it.
Understanding the wisdom of it.
Primarily, In our tradition, we have given more importance to the story than the philosophy. So people believe knowing the story is knowing the philosophy.
Actually.
So they think that, okay, I know the story Mahabharata, I know the story Bhagavad Gita. Arjuna had a problem, he went and asked Krishna, Krishna sorted out, the battle happened, they won. So for them, the Gita is not understood as a manual of life. Knowing the story is not knowing the philosophy. To put it in a very simple way, philosophy is the kernel, the story is the hard shell. If you take the coconut, there is the hard shell and then there is the soft kernel inside. Now the soft kernel inside cannot be exposed directly, should not be exposed directly. So it has to be covered by the hard shell. So people get carried away by the hard shell and lose interest in the kernel. Swamiji used to give this example in a very beautiful way. He says, the packaging is done so beautifully that people fell in love with the package and not the chocolate. The chocolate is the factor there, but the packaging is done so beautifully. So people get carried away by the package, knowing the package, knowing the box, they think they have tasted the chocolate.
True. Very nice example.
So we need to make it available to them in a way that they know the difference between the two and they discard the box and take the chocolate. And sometimes, not sometimes, most of the cases we can always see people say, you eat the chocolate, give me the box. Because the box looks more attractive than
True.
the content. So it is not the fault of the people also. Now I am answering it in a technical way.
True.
It is not the fault of the people also. The content which was given in the words that was relevant to that generation, the words and the package has become irrelevant today. The philosophy remains the same. Actually, we don't call it as philosophy, we call it as the law of life. Philosophy looks like something which is very distant and different. We don't understand it as the law of life. So here we call it as the law of life. This law of life was spoken in a language, the words, the examples, the metaphors which was relevant to that generation. Now the generation has changed. Now the philosophy, the law of life doesn't change. It has to be done in a different way.
Do you mean the packaging part or
Packaging
do you mean
part.
the
Packaging part?
Because the inside part remains.
The law doesn't change.
That doesn't change.
Yeah.
So the packaging has to change.
Yes. The law remains the same. Like for example, I'll give you a simple example. We call it as a science. We say Vedanta means the Bhagavad Gita, the scripture is the law of life, and we call it as a science. By science, we don't mean it as in verifiable in the laboratory. What we mean is the method, the process. Now, every science has certain technical terms and certain explanations. Now, we cannot change the technical terms, but the explanations must be changed. For example, accountancy is a science. An accountant will use the word debit and credit only. The layperson will not use the word debit and credit.
True.
They can say input, output, inflow, outflow, any name they can use. But the science means a technical word, and technical word cannot be changed, but the way in which it is explained can be changed. Now what we are saying is the law, the principle doesn't change. The way in which it ought to be explained needs a change. Then there will be an automatic interest in the people, because when they read the scripture directly, the language that is used, the metaphors that is used, the examples that is used are like so irrelevant today. Meaning Irrelevant in the sense we have no access to that generation.
We do not connect to it.
We cannot connect to it. Like for example, we can say for example, let us say, the Arjuna of Bhagavad Gita is the Bill Gates of today, let us say. Bill Gates went into a crisis. He went into a crisis. And that man, Bill Gates, who went into a crisis, I'm just using it as an example. I really don't know him. I really don't know anything.
No, absolutely. Steve Jobs is there.
Steve Jobs is a crisis.
We all get into crisis.
So a person of that caliber gets into a crisis, and the philosophy helped that person. If we can make a connect like that, then there will be an interest. Suppose you say Arjuna was a great warrior. For us, we have no connect with Arjuna. Now, if we can't connect with Arjuna, we can never connect with his dilemmas.
True.
Because we can never connect with his dilemmas, the philosophy itself looks like, I give this example. The philosophy today has been given the status of decoration in a Starbucks coffee. You go and buy a coffee, they do some decoration and they give. Now the decoration has not going to add any value to the taste of the coffee, but it looks good.
Again, the packaging part.
Now, what happened is, it is so much of the package that what needs to be done at the first layer first. At the first layer, it has to be done, which is what needs to. If it is done in that way, people can connect. Once they can connect, like for example, if we say Virat Kohli came for Virat Kohli studies Bhagavad Gita. 100 years back, Mahatma Gandhi read Bhagavad Gita. He writes, any crisis that I go through, whenever I am in a dilemma, not knowing what to do, I open the book Bhagavad Gita and it gives me clarity.
From any page that I open, I get that.
I get clarity.
Said by Mahatma Gandhi.
Yes, he says it. It means, now Arjuna was that kind of a caliber person for that generation.
Yes.
Therefore, the very name of Arjuna gotten helped by this philosophy is enough for people to get impressed. Today, we cannot go and look for such people. We need to explain it so that it is made relevant. So, it is not the problem of the people, it is so much they are not able to connect.
So, sir, any steps that, who should take these steps and what is the way out then?
Yeah, the first step and the most important step has been done already in the form of the Vedanta. I'm not doing any marketing now. I'm not doing any marketing sales talk. It's not a sales marketing talk.
Any knowledge on the Gita cannot be marketing.
Yeah. So the first part of it is beautifully done in the Vedanta Academy, and the commentaries that has come out. The uniqueness of the commentary, I'm saying. Every day there are hundreds and odd commentaries that comes out of Bhagavad Gita. Till today, nobody knows how many numbers of Gita commentaries are available in all languages. Yes. Nobody knows the number. That much keeps coming every day. But then something unique is the topic breakup. Breaking the chapter into topics where a layperson can follow the thought flow. Once you know the thought flow, you understand it's not just a random ethical, moral statements being told, a systematic teaching is being developed. So the teaching has to be the teaching that was done systematically, has to be exposed to the people. The first step has been done magnificently by Swamiji. We are all trying to those who are benefited from that, we are trying to expose it to as many people as possible. Meaning, we are not talking about the person, we are not talking about the institution. I am talking about the way in which the systematic approach of the knowledge is brought out in a layperson's term, which is the need of the hour.
Great. So the first step is done.
Yes, the first step, which is the most critical, which is the most difficult step, is done.
So the repackaging is ready.
and going out and talking and spreading the word around, which is also a task. When I say task, means a very pleasurable, lovable thing is being done slowly. Having said all that, there is a natural law also. There is a natural law also. In the background of the natural law only we should understand this. What is a natural law? To be interested in the law of life is not natural to most of the human beings. Again I repeat,
That's
to be interested in the
That's a deep point.
to be interested in the natural law of life is not natural to most of the human beings. A simple example is number of students in a university all over the world. Arts subjects versus science subjects versus math, philosophy. Thousands will be in the art subjects, hundreds will be in the math, 30, 40 will be in the hundreds will be in the science, 30, 40 will be in the math, 2, 3 will be in the philosophy. The 2, 3 is also because they failed in all other subjects maybe.
So sir,
there is a natural law. Now that people on top who has gotten the benefit knows how to percolate it to the lower. Now the few has to take it to the masses. It can never become a mass movement. It can never become a mass movement because the very subject matter is thus. Those who have understood it has to be, they can do it in their own, they can communicate it, they can pass it on in their own unique way. This is the law. Anything that is valuable for a betterment of life of a human being by law will percolate.
Some amount of consistency is
It
required.
will come, it will percolate.
Now from this angle, if one question that comes to my mind after discussing with so many people, when we distribute the Gita, we try to interact as to why they don't study. So one question or one point that keeps coming up is that today the most of the authority or the teachers of the Gita or the Vedanta, they always say this is the viewpoint of the people that we have interacted, that they do not feel the connect immediately because the teacher part or the authority part is always in a monk setup.
Exactly correct.
And therefore the students feel that if we really want to excel in this subject called philosophy of life, law of life, Gita, Vedanta, it means it is meant for that kind of livelihood or that kind of lifestyle. And therefore this disconnect is there.
Yes.
So what do you think that whether what are your observations or comments on this? And do you think it's a valid point that these people raise?
Yes. First I'll take the second thing. This observation is fallacious because it is considering the part as the whole. A few people in the last few hundred years came from the monk lifestyle school. Therefore, which is a part. From that, they extrapolated and they said, unless I am that, it will never work out. For which I say, yes, your observation is true, but the conclusion is wrong. Because considering a part as the whole, which is a fallacy in thinking. How do we establish that? All the Vedic rishis who gave out the scriptures originally, none of them were monks. Under no means Krishna himself is a monk.
My point was that only the Gita was not given by a monk, was not given to a monk. And both Arjuna, are householders, both are, so proper householders.
Yes. So it means technically Vedanta is designed for a grihastha, householder. The technical word for this is grihastha. Grihastha means a person who needs to be active in the world performing one's duties. This philosophy is to help the person in the world to perform the respective duty. Incidentally, it came out from, not originally, in the last 100 years, in the last few hundred years, it came out from the few monks. It is like, I talk one thing, I have a different lifestyle. In verse number 21, chapter 3 of the Bhagavad Gita, he says, Yadyata charati sreshtaha tat eva itarajanaha sayat pramanam kurute lokaha tat anuvartate. He says, sayat pramanam kurute. Whatever they
lifestyle.
speak is not the pramanam, authority. How they live. It means if I'm genuinely interested in spreading this philosophy, if I'm genuinely interested in helping the other, the primary requirement is to have a lifestyle. According to Krishna himself, Yadyata charati sreshtaha, verse number 21, chapter 3. I'm giving the references also, so that anybody can refer and understand. So there he uses the word achara. He says, people go by what you do, not by what you talk. I can't tell them, this is my private life, you have no jurisdiction here, but listen to my discourse on me telling you how to live life.
True.
In other subjects, that segregation works.
But since this is the law of life, so there cannot be a life which is private.
There cannot be something which is private.
Which is hidden.
Which is hidden. I cannot do that.
If I'm a mathematics professor, you follow my mathematics teachings.
That's
you
all.
Don't have to see what I'm doing in my life. That's a very valid point.
What I'm doing there, because that methodology works for all other subjects. Now the same methodology will not be working here, because when I am telling you this is how you should do, he will turn back and ask, are you living it? Is it working for you? If I say, yes, I am living it, it is working for me, and if I show it, then the interest comes.
But sir, if we go deeper into it, I mean, this distinction which comes because of the appearance,
Yes.
that that the people disconnect with the uniform, or
yes,
you can say in one way,
yes,
it's too shallow a word.
Exactly correct.
Please forgive me for using that word, but that's what
I'm also sitting in a uniform. No,
so that is what
I should have easily come in a shorts and a t-shirt.
So do you think that this uniform creates a barrier?
No, the uniform is the one which creates the respect. It's like every field of activity must have because human beings works on thought association. We all work based on thought association. So at a layperson level, we want the thought association to happen so instantly that the first layer of understanding is clear by that itself. That's why we insist that the police must wear a uniform. The defense must wear a uniform. We will not worry about a politician wearing a uniform.
In fact, my next question was this only, what you just mentioned, that say if a police officer is teaching about how to become the police or whatever the course is, he wearing that uniform means what? Ultimately, the students will also wear that uniform someday.
Correct.
Same with the military. Same with the doctor maybe. But in this case, again, it's a different, just like you mentioned.
Exactly.
From others. So here the person sitting as a student may not actually wanting to wear that uniform in due course. So then how does this work?
The difference is, here the difference is, in the teaching itself, we will say, you can walk like a Buddha, dress like a Buddha, talk like a Buddha, sit in his seating posture, you can find his breakfast, lunch, dinner menu and follow that, you will not become a Buddha. It is like the child watching Federer playing tennis. What does the child see? The racket that he is using, the shoe that he is wearing, the shorts and the t-shirt. So the child goes to the store, buy the shorts, buy the t-shirt, buy the tennis racket, buy the shoes. Does it become a Federer? It won't. It means in the teaching itself, it should be, the teaching itself will be inculcated in a way that they will not get cultish. What we call as uniform in the other disciplines, specifically when it comes to religion, we will not say, we will say cultish. No, we are not intending to start a new cult here. What is a new cult here? White dhoti, white kurta, white mala. That's not the new cult that is being promoted. But then why? At the first layer, it is easy to communicate what I want to communicate. Like we say, apparel speaks the man. Apparel speaks the person first. Therefore, having carefully thought about the human psychology, a few things was done. When it comes to a subject like religion, a person need not actually convert into this uniform. Converting into uniform is just becoming part of the fan base or subscribing to the fan base or just joining the cult, which is not going to bring an inner transformation. There we say we are wearing it not to come out and say you also wear and come and sit in the class. That's why so many people personally they get attracted to the classes and all that. After a while they'll start coming in this dress. After the class over, I'll call them, why did you change? I said, by changing, what do you think is going to happen? I am wearing it because this field of activity requires it. You listening, learning and going to apply in your field of activity, this is not. This is the non-essential part of the education. So it means the teaching goes like this. What is essential?
What you've put down,
what is the non-essential?
Yeah, what you've put is very nicely, of course, expressed. But I think there is a gap in the message which the uniform portrays and the message that people are getting.
Yes.
From the the masses that we have spoken to.
Yes.
And that gives them a feeling that if I want to become a monk,
yes,
or something like that, then only I should take up this study.
Because the teaching itself is talking about what? At a superficial layer, the philosophy is almost telling people leave everything. Get rid of the desires, get rid of everything, leave everything behind. Now when they keep hearing all this, naturally what will they think?
In fact, sir, that brings me to the next question, that since Gita is originally written in Sanskrit,
yes,
again, these are all the questions of the people that we have spoken to.
Correct.
It is not my questions because I have some now knowledge of the Gita and I know that what it has, at least to some extent. But coming absolutely from the layman's word of mouth.
Correct.
So what they feel is that originally Gita was written in Sanskrit.
Yes.
And now when it is translated to English, which is the most widely studied or accepted form of the Gita currently, since Sanskrit is not known to most of the people.
Yes.
The words attachment and detachment.
Yes.
Do you think they are the true translation of the words asakti or anasakti, or which the Gita or the Vedanta really wants to convey?
No.
Because this attachment and detachment creates what I have seen a lot of confusion.
Yes.
That attachment in today's language is confused with love.
Correct. Exactly correct.
And detachment in today's terms means just leave everything, just like you mentioned. Leave desires, leave this,
desires.
Leave that.
First thing you hear is leave desires.
So what is the origin of this translation and why has it come? Is there some other reason behind it?
Yes.
Wouldn't a word like possessiveness would have been better than attachment?
Yes. A language that is used by the layperson is bound to change the meaning every 30-40 years. Opposite meanings comes in. Like for example, in the same English language, you take somebody 60 years back, 70 years back, and show them the Taj Mahal or the Niagara Falls. They will not say, wow. They will not say, awesome. They will say, awful it is. Now, if you hear the word awful now, what do you understand?
Awful means
Ugliest.
bad.
Ugly.
That means it was full of awe.
Full of awe. Full of awe. Awful it is. Full of awe. Now, this is a common universal problem where the language that is being used by people keeps changing.
The meaning keeps changing.
Meaning keeps changing. Now, if opposite meaning comes in a matter of 30 years, what scientific teaching is possible? Because scientific teaching, we started by saying scientific teaching means the technical words, the technical meanings should remain the
same.
Then only science can continue.
Otherwise, the meaning of science will only change.
Otherwise, the meaning itself keeps changing. It means no communication happens. Now, where comes the biggest challenge is in philosophy, we have not, the English language or the layperson doesn't treat philosophy as a science. Therefore, they just use words very liberally. When they use words very liberally, our thinking gets carried away by the words that we use. One. Number two, each and every word has a unique meaning to the culture, to the context. So, a language, any language for that matter, has this problem. If we have to keep it as a science, which is what I started by saying, that's the biggest problem today. If we have to keep it as a science, certain technical terms must be defined and it should be used consistently. Now, Sanskrit. The word Sanskrit itself means perfectly made, well made. Perfectly made, well made. That's the meaning. So, supposing if I ask, what is the meaning of the word English? Say language. No. What does English mean? Language. Supposing say Aravindan. Oh, that's your name. But what does Arvind mean? Lotus. It makes some. Similarly, if I say, okay, what is English?
Coming from England.
Coming from England. That's not it doesn't have a meaning.
No real meaning.
No real meaning behind it. But then if you ask Sanskrit is not like that. Sanskrit means well made, well crafted, well made. Obvious next question is for what? To convey the science of philosophy, to convey the science of the law of life, to convey the science of knowledge of life and living. Therefore, what they did, lot of effort, thinking and all has been made, and they kept to the technical terms, and we keep repeating those technical terms. The biggest problem of the modern day is originality is a very big problem today. Everybody has to say that they are original. Everybody has to come out and prove that what I am talking, the way that I am talking about Gita was never spoken in the past. It will never be spoken again in the future. Now, the problem of having to be unique and original has become such a big problem today that science is being lost.
I can say anything even if it is irrelevant.
Irrelevant.
Or may not be correct.
It may not be correct. Why? It has become such a big problem today. Because of that, what happens in the urge to sound original, in the urge to sound that it is my unique contribution, we have lost track of the science. Rabindranath Tagore, he was lecturing. So he was giving two examples. One example is the ocean and the wave. Another example is rope and the snake, which is standard examples in the Vedantic literature. So quite a few people stood up and asked, you being a great poet, why can't you say something original?
Something new.
Something new. Why do you have to repeat the same thing? He turned back and said, it is repeated because that's the only way it can be communicated.
Any other way you try, it will lose its original essence.
It will lose the meaning. It means the philosophy has very confusing because the words are used so liberally. Even when they use it liberally, they do not know how to technically connect it to the concept, the intended meaning. In thinking, there are two things. One is the word meaning, another is the intended meaning. In the word detachment, there is a literal word meaning and then there is an intended meaning. Now people will only listen to the word meaning.
The layman is
they will
limited
only listen to that.
to
No fault of them. We can't blame them. We can't go and say you are ignorant.
Yeah.
You don't know how to think. It makes no sense. It means they will know the word meaning and the word meaning must be connected to the intended meaning in a way that they can quickly grasp.
But sir, there again the phrase Karm kar phal ki chinta mat kar, do your karm and don't worry about the results.
Yes,
And the word attachment, detachment.
correct.
So what I have seen that these are the two things which either
Yes,
pull people towards the Gita or Vedanta or repels them. In most cases, it repels them.
Correct.
Because of two reasons. One is what we discussed about
Yes.
detachment. That
Yes.
I don't want to get detached to the world.
Correct.
Why should I study the Gita?
Correct.
Second is karm kar phal ki chinta mat kar, means do your
Yes.
karma and don't worry about the results.
Yes.
So again, if I can talk about Gen Z or the
Yes.
people who are just starting their careers,
Correct.
again this takes them away from
Correct.
the Gita or the philosophy.
Yes.
Because how can we not worry about the results?
Correct.
How can we not care about the results?
Correct.
How can we not focus on the results? These are the words that people start using.
Yes.
Some or other word.
Yes.
Everybody uses a different
word, but means the correct.
They think that they mean the same,
Yes.
in my understanding.
Yeah.
But the real meaning again is lost.
Correct.
What I have understood so
Yes.
far is that Gita says you have the right to action.
Yes.
You don't have the right to results.
Yes.
Now this was the statement what I understand as.
Correct.
And it was given as a summary ki karm kar phal ki chinta mat kar.
Correct.
So again, isn't this misleading? That
Yes.
misleading people away from the Gita, and more than pulling them, it
Yes.
is kind of repelling them.
Yes, that's what I'm saying. When we say it is misleading, naturally the question is, by whom?
That was main thing, is how has this come up,
By
and why
whom?
has this come up, and who
By
has
whom? By
who has made this
By
misleading
whom?
interpretations?
By whom? Most of the time, the so-called teachers themselves are the major problem, because you cannot make a statement and just repeat the statement without elaborating the statement and taking up clarifications. Therefore, most of the time, if not always, they are misled. Predominantly by the so-called teachers themselves. In a minor way, every student themselves is responsible, because they also didn't bother to go deeper and find out. But then in the initial stages, I should create an interest for them to go deeper. It means, I will say, correct. Take a simple example like this. In the Bhagavad Gita, whenever he talks about this example, he says, Vyavasayatmika buddhihi ekeha kurunandana. He gives example, Vyavasayatmika buddhihi. Vyavasayi means, actual meaning is, Vyavasayi means like the farmer. Perform action like the farmer. Nobody is saying that. Vyavasayatmika buddhihi ekeha gurunandana is the verses. In chapter 2, when he introduces Karma Yoga from verse number 40 onwards till verse number 53. Magnificent introduction he gives. And then he elaborates from chapter 3 onwards. At the introduction itself is like hitting the first ball 6. Vyavasayatmika buddhi ekeha gurunandana. Vyavasayi means farmer. How can a philosophy can be made more simpler than that? Now, what is the farmer's buddhi means? When should the farmer plough the field? He should plough the field when the sun is beating him down, with no guarantee of the rains going to come or not going to come. Even if it comes, less rain or more rain, appropriate time, inappropriate time, none of it he knows.
Or is in his control.
Is in his
Nothing
control.
is no control at all.
And his control. It means looking at all these factors, he can be completely demotivated and not plough the field at all, or he can plough the field with worry and anxiety and agitation and stress, etc., or he can plough the field whistling, dancing. That's all.
That's very well put. But how to reach that stage where the farmer is dancing and plowing the field with all the uncertainties?
That is the teaching.
That is the teaching.
That is the teaching. That will not come in half an hour.
Yes.
That is the teaching. It means the teaching is never complicated. Supposing, that's why I always say, give me one word from the Bhagavad Gita, give me one word from the Upanishad where you say it is very complicated. No. How can a person can give more simpler than this?
Example than a farmer.
Example, then he says, farmer's buddhi you should have, he saying. In buddhi means intellect. Like the farmer ploughing the field when sun is beating him down. Last year I ploughed, nothing happened. So why should I do this year? Last time I ploughed, double yield, now at least 10x. now that I got 2x last year, this year it should be 10x. Krishna is saying you should not have, he is not saying you should not have all these ambitions. He is saying have these ambitions, have this goal, because action without a goal is powerless, directionless.
So having a goal is not a problem.
Having a goal is not, because if I don't have a goal, action will lack direction, action will lack power.
Focus on the goal is not a problem.
Focus on the goal is not a problem.
Ambition is not a problem.
Is not a problem.
So how is this message going to be conveyed to people?
That is where, then where comes the problem? Where comes the problem is clarity on what is under my control, what will never come under my control.
I think that is the real summary of the teaching, that
That's all.
When you make this distinction that what is in my control and what is not in my control.
What will never come under my control.
Yes, that is the stronger way of putting it. Never ever will come under my
never
control.
ever come under my control. The moment I have this clarity, I know what is under my control. And when I do what is under my control to the best of my ability, not perfectly. Vedanta again Vedanta doesn't talk about doing perfectly. Vedanta always talks about doing sincerely.
Doing
and
the
there is
best.
a big difference between perfect doing and sincere doing. For example, I always say this. There are very many ways by which a human being can become insane. Million ways is there for a human being to become insane. The quickest way to become insane is turn into a perfectionist. And people take pride in that. I am a perfectionist. I say that's a very quickest way to insanity.
Yes, to think of it, yes, it makes sense.
That's the quickest way to insanity, is being perfectionist. Vedanta, Bhagavad Gita is not talking about doing things perfectly. It's doing things sincerely.
To the best of your ability.
Sincerely means I do it sincerely, doesn't mean the result comes in the way
you want it. Or
in the wanted. Why? Because the factors that are not under my control should not agitate me, should not worry me. The factors that is under my control if I don't do it rightly, something in me always tells me
You could have done better.
you could have.
And that regret,
That
I
regret.
think, is the biggest
Yeah,
reason.
you. Now, perfectionism is not going to take care of that. The sincere doing takes care of that. Therefore, understand the difference between sincere doing and perfect doing. Understand the difference between state of mind in relation to doing, a state of mind in relation to the result of the doing. I can give the principles of Karma Yoga in 5 minutes, not even 5 minutes.
But to implement it will.
Yeah, but then to implement it, methodologies has to be given. That's where teaching comes in. But to explain it is not challenging at all, because the Gita doesn't complicate it. The Vedas don't complicate it. Upanishads don't complicate it. As a teacher, if I have not understood, I will complicate it. So the complication shows lack of understanding by the teacher rather than the subject itself. There are some teachers who can make mathematics looks very simple, no?
Yes.
In fact, I'm not. I got so interested in mathematics. I always say I am not a mathematician or anything. The way that he taught mathematics made it look so simple. That got me interested. Now, at Krishnam Vande Jagat Gurum, we call him Jagat Guru, and he is a Jagat Guru because it cannot be taught more simpler than this. What is it? Farmer's buddhi have two attitudes. While doing an action, you must have a unique mental attitude. In relation to the result of the action, you should have a unique mental attitude. Number 3, action has two components. One is skill, another is your mental state. Sky is the limit for improving the skill. Your mental state, you will hit a peak and that's it. You will stay there. That's called Veda Anta. That's all it is.
Thank you, sir. Those were lovely insights on why and how one should study the Bhagavad Gita. Now, normally we finish the episode at around 45 or 60 minutes, but what I feel is that for this particular episode, one episode of 45 to 60 minutes is not good enough, and hence we will continue this discussion, such an insightful discussion, to the next part of it. So stay tuned for the next part.